Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I am Brigid Burke and it is the 16th of July 2024. And I'm just trying to get myself seated today. I woke up quite late today. I woke up at about 10 minutes to 6, which is late for me. Oh, good morning, Alex. I woke up a bit late and I was kind of rushing around a bit. And and good morning. I see. It looks like Joanna's joined, and it looks like Melissa has joined. So good morning to both of you. Good morning to everybody. Ooh, nice little group already here at 6:31. I was just saying I woke up a little bit late today, and it is going to be another hot, humid day here in the Northeast U.S. And whenever there's a little bit of a breeze in the morning, I try to open the windows to try to get some of the cooler air before. I mean, it's not cold air, but or really that really refreshing cool air that you can get in the morning. It's not that, but it's still it's not what it is going to be in the middle of the day today. So, you've been waking up at 4 a.m. lately. Yeah, it's usually I'm actually pretty close to that. I'm usually up at around maybe 4:30 or 5. And I used to get up at 4 all the time. And a lot of times if I wake up that early, then I would do the Rouhani and stuff on myself. But this morning I was just like, I gotta run around. Because I had some really weird dreams last night. And so I was up and fortunately it didn't take me too much to get my act together. And I was able to write my dreams down last night because that was an important thing I wanted to get done. And good morning, Melissa. I have... So anyway, I got up and I have my, this morning I have Spanish coffee. I little think I had learned about, a lot of times when you go to the store to buy coffee, it's really, really expensive. You're talking, even like the typical brands like your Folgers, Maxwell House, stuff like that. They're like $7, $8, for a container of it. And I've discovered, one of my coworkers years ago was, she was from Puerto Rico, and she always brought in those vacuum-packed bricks of coffee, like Cafe Bustelo and stuff. Wow, I always forget them, but having them is vivid. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the dream thing in a second here. Yeah, it's, but anyway, this coffee, it's coffee that's like $2 or $3 a brick, and we do have a Spanish store nearby, so I was like, ooh, so now I buy that in the mornings to complement my pumpkin spice. I switch off between the two. Just in my Taurian way, I'm always trying to kind of save things so that I don't have to spend money on it too often. So anyway, I don't know. Just because this is morning coffee, take 2 seconds to tell you about my coffee. You're drinking that too, so good. Joanne had brought up the dreams, and I was good. That's a good segue to one of the things I was going to mention this morning, and that is that for people, I've had a couple of requests from people who have taken the dream class with me at the end of last month to do dream workshopping, and I think I'm going to offer it. I was going to try to offer it this month, but I've got things going on. It would normally be the last weekend of the month, but I've got Rouhani sessions, and I've got a Reiki class that I'm doing. So those of you who are in New Jersey and want to do Reiki 1, I mean, some of the people on here I know have already done Reiki 1 with me and Reiki 2, but if you do, if you want to do Reiki 1 in person in Milford, then this is definitely the time to do it. It's going to be a class. It's going to be like a 5-hour class. It's like 10 to 5, so maybe a little longer than that. Well, there's a break for lunch, but it's basically I do all the theory in the morning, and then what we do in the afternoon is I do the attunements, and then I do the practice. And the space that Corinna has, she had, when I first worked there, it was kind of like I was in this little room doing tarot. She just still does have a tarot room there. And she also has another space in the back where she has like a Reiki table, and she has a bio mat, which is so cool. She has this thing, and it's like all made out of she has this mat that's all made out of amethyst. It's just that you can lay on while you're doing things. It's really quite the experience. And I think she might have a different version of that too now as well. But in any case, if you're in New Jersey, it's a beautiful little town. It's one of the little river towns near Frenchtown and Lambertville. Across the river, just about half an hour down is New Hope. So it's a beautiful little space, and now that she's expanded into this other space, good morning, Sam. Now that she's expanded out into this space that has, I think she's actually going to start renting it as of September. But right now there's like this really beautiful space. It's got a fireplace and everything, and it's just and the vibe of it is just really, really good. And yes, coffee this morning, definitely. So yeah, it's a beautiful space, and it's just a really nice, really the vibe of a place where you're actually doing in-person work. It to me is really, really important. Because I have worked in places where the vibe has gotten to be very tense or very off. One thing I find is that if you work in a place that has, a lot of times people will put like crystals and stuff around, but sometimes if you almost have too many crystals, it can actually almost be too much for people sometimes. So that's something that I've found working in certain spaces. And so I don't know. I have a few things around, like people who come to my home, which is I make that's mainly been the clients that I used to have in Morristown, and I probably would take Milford clients here too if it was closer for them. But I have a really nice space downstairs. Those of you who watch the Cotonia live streams can see my downstairs space, which has got the beamed ceilings and I've got the oriental rugs out, and it's really, actually I think it's a really cool, earthy, homey space to do this kind of work in. But because there's no place to really park, now we actually have a road that's paved, yay, but I always have to move my car to let clients park in my driveway and everything, and it's just not friendly to having a lot of traffic. So that's why I will say to people, all my spaces are cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, you've seen quite a few of them on camera, I think, and including this one. This is my upstairs, but it's very. I do love this house. It's a 1850s house, and like I said, I would have loved to have more clientele here, but I'm just not really set. I mean, I'm set up for it in terms of the inside space, but the outside logistics are not that great, and I don't want to create a situation where someone walks down the street and trips and falls or something, So it's just, yeah, I wish I had a space where I could have regular client traffic and just add it to my insurance, but it doesn't really work out that way. So, but anyway, I am going to be offering another dream workshop probably the first weekend of August. And that does kind of dovetail with, and it'll be the same price. It'll be like, I think I'm doing $20 a person. And I know these prices are kind of low, but I would rather just have more people join in for, and make it the price lower than make a higher price and then have nobody want to join. So, because a lot of people will say like, oh, excellent. Yeah. A lot of people feel like they can't, I've had people tell me like, wow, that class would be so cool, but I can't afford it at the rate that it's at. Like a lot of people, I know that the economy is in better shape, but a lot of people still can't afford big prices on things. And like I said, I don't want to make it just like, some people are like, oh, well, you should only go for people who make a lot of money. I'm like, I don't want to create like, yes, obviously if people make a lot of money and want to take these classes, that's great. I don't really want to discriminate based on economic status, I guess is what I'm coming down to there. So I'm trying to keep things affordable, and I'm going to be doing a lot of work on stuff today. In addition to the dream workshop that I want to get up, I think there was something else I was going to do today. Just trying to get some business sorted out. And the Azrael channelings. That's the other thing that I really want to work on, is getting all of that. I have two or three more of them that I have not actually edited and posted yet. I'm behind on editing and posting stuff for Cotonia, and I'm planning to record an extra podcast for my patrons this week. So, that actually reminds me. Yesterday I was talking, that's so cool of you, I like that idea too. Thank you. Yesterday I was talking about the ways in which, I was talking about fire energy, because we were talking about this Mars-Uranus-Algol conjunction, which it would kind of max yesterday and is kind of like slowly, the influence will be slowly waning over the week. It is a very good energy for getting stuff done. But as I mentioned, if you're a fire sign person, you tend to overcommit to things. And I had mentioned the Ten of Wands card in the Tarot Oscuro, and I was talking about it yesterday, and this is what it looks like. Okay. This Ten of Wands, because as I think I said I was having a conversation with Gina, and who used to be at the Rock Box when I worked over there, and now I think she does readings and stuff on her own now too. But she's the one who introduced me to this deck, and she said, yeah, she goes, this is a good portrayal of the Ten of Wands. Yeah, it is beautiful, isn't it? Estelle Rivere is the name of the artist, and she does some really cool and like far out kind of stuff. If you like I don't know. A lot of it kind of is more in like the kink kind of factor, the way that she does it, which, you know, I don't. Yeah, I think I think that's an art form. I'm not gonna. But I don't know that it's an art form that I can only share on YouTube and things like that. But in any case, she's. You know, this is a person who's just like they just look absolutely determined to hang on to those 10 wands. And she said that's the way in which a lot of times we try to take on a lot of different stuff, and then it's like, you know, I have to carry all of it. There's somebody I know who I watched their live streams and so forth, and this person has said in the past, person's an Aries, and they've said things about, well, yeah, I used to, you know, I had a company do this for me, or I had this happen, or I had this thing, and then they did it wrong, so now I've just decided I have to do everything myself. And I completely understand that sentiment, because that is kind of the way I am with my business. People have said, oh, why don't you get so-and-so to do this for you, or this one to do that for you? And the thing is, I just feel like the kind of thing that I'm doing, especially because I'm combining the stuff I do with, like, Katonia and transition life coaching are two things that I've separated out, because I find that the people who are necessarily interested in the academics of myth and religion and stuff like that may or may not be interested in the stuff I'm doing with the channeling, with the astrology and all that stuff. I mean, they might be interested in both. But then there's other people who say, oh, I don't care about any of that. I just want to hear, you know, your discussion of this figure or that figure. So I try to keep them separate so that the people who are interested in Katonia can focus on that, and I try to keep that a little bit more academic and on that side. And on this side of the house, this is where I deal with what I call this the one-to-one side. This is where I'm dealing with clients or dealing with classes of people that are dealing with stuff that have to do with people's own relationship with those symbols, let's just say, and the way in which those things guide people through their own transitions. So that's really what my focus is over here. But there can be some overlap in the work, as you might imagine. So, but trying to manage it all is very, very hard. That's what I love about you. You're all the things. Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, but that's just it. It's sometimes hard to be all the things. And that's what I was saying to this other person. I said, you know, that's great that right now you can manage all the things. I said, but as you get older, it gets harder to manage all the things because, you know, mainly because your body just doesn't let you. I will have days when I wake up when I feel like, you know, you feel like you've been hit by a truck, or you get hit by these bad headaches, or you get hit by different things. Although I have to say, since I've been doing the Rahani, I've not really been suffering from the headaches. Occasionally I'll get one, like I'll wake up with one, but I don't, but then it'll be gone within an hour. Whereas before I'd have 2 or 3 days of it. So interesting that that's kind of what's happening there. Yeah, so, and it's weird that the topic that came up for me today, and here we are, we're already at 6:43, I guess, but the topic that presented itself to me this morning had to do with, I think I had gotten the two queens. I got the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Cups. Okay, and so those are really two, they can be complementary energies, but they're different. Queen of Wands energy is very, it's very forthright, it's very ambitious. I know that that's an energy that people can either love or hate, you know, because it's that energy of, it's that real go-getter kind of energy. What was it? I drink lemon water with Himalayan pink salt, and it's been helping with migraines. Oh, that's okay. That's actually a really good idea. I haven't tried that myself, but it would be something to think about, certainly. And I'm glad it is helping you. So, excuse me. Yeah, so this idea of this Queen of Wands energy that's very, very intense, and I think it fits in with this idea of intensity and trying to do all the things. Whether you are in fact whether in fact you are a fire sign or not, or whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. Like when you see a queen or a king or a knight, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with gender. You can have anybody of either gender who fits in with that card. And Queen of Cups, of course, is more of the Cancerian energy. It's interesting because we're getting to a point that's almost between Cancer and Leo, and then we're seeing this, you know, because you're having this fire and water. In Vedic astrology, they call that a Gandanta point. And, I'm sorry. Although, again, the astrology is going to be shifting. Like in Vedic astrology, we've probably just shifted into Cancer now. and we're not going to shift into Leo until something like mid-August, because again, everything's 24 degrees behind. So, like I said, like in Vedic astrology, if you look at sun signs, which again are not as important as your moon sign or your ascendant, I would be in Aries in that, because Aries begins on April the 14th. In Western tropical astrology, Taurus begins on April the 20th, 19th, 20th, 21st, somewhere in that ballpark. So, because it has more to do with where the 0 degrees line of Aries is at the spring equinox. Okay, that's where 0 degrees of Aries is measured, and our horoscope kind of goes along with that. Vedic astrology is based on the actual sky positions. Okay. One thing I hate is this constant, you know. I don't always notice it, but then I go back and listen, and I'm going, oh my god, you know. But I also don't want to sound like I'm completely hoarse here either. So, okay. So anyway, so with regard to these two energies, I'm like, okay. What came into my mind with that was the fact that I've talked a lot about human design, and human design is something else that I will do, usually as part of the life path reading. The life path is I'll remind people, is a mega reading where I do both charts. I do Vedic and Western, and I do human design, and I will do the natal chart, and I will do at least the current transits. Okay, we'll at least take a gander at them to see where that's fitting in with where you are now. And then I will also usually do readings on top of that. So that's what I said. That takes me about 5 or 6 hours of prep time. And then when I actually sit down and work with the person, then we are usually on for at least a couple hours. It is a very long kind of session. And sometimes I think it needs to be 2.5 hours, or maybe it needs to be broken up into 2 sessions. I don't know, because it's a lot of information to go through. People who have had it know that it's like by the end of it, we're all kind of like dragging. It's like, okay, I think I've learned enough for today. But it is a lot of information. And of course, the people have the report they can refer back to. So if they're going through certain things, they can go back and look at the information. And I do give a summary report of everything. Plus, I will give a copy of all the notes that I've taken as I've gone through the reading, so that people can go back and, get down into the weeds if they really want to. If they say, oh, there's this aspect she talks about, I don't know what that's about. Well, I get into some detail on that. So the life path reading, it's an expensive reading, but it is something you can refer back to, for your entire life, really. Other than the transits, which would only be for that one day, but everything else in it would be, it goes on for, it's going to basically cover the spectrum of whatever's been going on, at least in this iteration of you. So, but in human design, we all have a type, okay? And the types that we have in human design, like I said, there's manifestor, there's generator, and manifesting generator, which are kind of similar. There is the projector, there is the reflector, and there's one more, and for some reason it's not coming into my head. Maybe somebody here will know what it is. I'll know it when I look at it. But it's once I get my birth time, I'll be hitting you up. Oh, cool. Yeah, I would love to do yours, Joanne, actually. That would be really cool. It would be interesting to see. Cause it's, so with human design, when we have these types, 85% of people belong to the type that is known as the generator type, or the manifesting generator. Again, they tend to, manifesting generators have and I happen to be a manifesting generator. They have another layer of strategy or something. There's one other thing, but they're basically the same. And a lot of people, probably a lot of people watching here are people, although not everybody. I know some people are not generators. I know that's a conversation we've had, but the generator is somebody who has either the sacrum as their internal authority, or they have an emotional internal authority. It's either solar plexus or sacrum, which means that you're either informed by your instinct, in which case the idea is your strategy would be to respond to things, okay, or you have this emotional authority, which means that you need to pay attention to your feelings. You don't need to just brush off and say, oh, those are just emotions, I don't need to pay attention to those. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you are listening to that. But again, it's going to depend. If you're a projector or a reflector, you don't have an inner authority, which means that it's more like you're in the flow of what's going on in the environment and what you're picking up from other people. So it's interesting. And I have worked with a lot of projectors. I get a lot of people in for Reiki who are projectors, which is really interesting. And I have had some people in for readings. But projectors are very, that's a whole different thing. Those are people who really need to conserve their energy. But the generator is like your little Energizer bunny. They just go, 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 go. And so that's when I bring up Queen of Wands versus Queen of Cups, okay? This is the idea of the action of fire versus the receptivity of Cups energy, or the emotional receptivity. And the question is that the big challenge for all of us who have the generator energy, or even just people who are very ambitious, is how do you put those two things in balance? Because kind of to the point that I was making earlier about trying to do all the things, is that we hit the wall. We will hit a limit at some point. The way it was described to me by my Vedic astrologer who I was going to years ago, Prasannan, is he was the first person to introduce me to human design, and he says you're going to be able to go. He's like, you'll work 14-hour days, you'll just go, and all of a sudden you crash out. And then it's like you got to sleep for 2 or 3 days, and then you're up and you're ready to go again. What I find, just being one of those types, as I've gotten older, I find that those moments of like getting up and being like, right, I'm going to work for 14 hours and I'm going to do everything, that there's less and less of that time. Even with doing certain healing modalities and stuff, which actually do improve my energy level. But there's still, wow, that's me 100%. Yeah. When you want to, the older you get, I'm just going to say post 40. Okay. The older you get, the harder it is to maintain that level. And, it's really hard to, because, so there's this balance that you have to have between, getting done, accomplishing what it is you want to accomplish, or even just moving through a particular change. Like if we're talking about transitions, oftentimes one of the conditions that I talk about, yes, it's frustrating. Yeah. It's, is the way in which we really, like, we may be jazzed up. We're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here. I'm ready to get in. I guess maybe the metaphor might be like you're in your car and you're ready to get on the road. And you get out and you get on the highway and there's a traffic jam and you're stuck there for like 2 hours. It's that kind of thing. You all of a sudden you're just stuck. It could be circumstances that make you stuck. It could be, it could just be, and again, it could just be you. Like if you wake up and you have this big plan for the day, but then you get a colossal headache. It's like, well, what do I do? And for me, a lot of times what I've had to do is just say, well, all those plans are canceled for today. So good morning, Sudha. And so, yeah, so I kind of get into this space where we're kind of trying to, when you have all of that intense energy that needs to do something, but you're at a point where life is not allowing you to do anything. What I see come up a lot in these cards, which are the astrology cards, is I will see I will see a lot of that fire energy. I'll see a lot of that Aries, that Mars, that really intense energy, but it will be with Pisces. And right now we've got Saturn in Pisces, I think Neptune's in Pisces, and those aspects have been squaring off against a lot of other things right now. And that can be frustrating. And Saturn also tends to slow us down. Okay, Saturn's like, no shortcuts, methodical, slow, steady. And again, if you're a high energy person, you're just like, I don't have time for this. The impatience tends to be a thing. Frustration, like Joanne just said, frustration tends to be a thing. And those are usually what they call the not self theme in human design, right? So so the idea is, how do we get more into the flow of what, when we have all that energy and we have, we have all these plans we want to act on, but there's something blocking us. Okay, so there's two possibilities there. One is that with all of this mental energy, you are overthinking the situation. in which case you need to kind of back off and say, okay, you need to allow for that Queen of Cups energy. You need to allow for that receptivity and that flow to come in, because when that flow, when it comes in, that's the point at which you can, so where you can actually hear your inner voice, just hear, okay, I'm trying to go into this direction, and really I need to just back up and go in this direction. But we're not going to necessarily know that we're going to be moving in that direction. We don't necessarily, we're not going to necessarily know through thinking. Okay, the more mental energy we apply, the more we're kind of feeling like more frustrated that the direction we're trying to move in isn't working, and then we start catastrophizing about all the other possible directions. But we need to kind of back off from it. So there needs to be a balance with that receptivity, but also there sometimes needs to be a certain level of acceptance that maybe the thing you want to move forward with is not the thing you need to move forward on right now. That's the thing. Like I'm ready to launch today, but there may be things. It's kind of like, or getting on an airplane and it's like, oh, now we've got delays because there's storms out there. You're ready to get going, and you're frustrated. God knows I've been in the airport with that kind of situation many times, trying to. I loved it. I think the first time I was going to go to England. I was getting ready to go to England for England and Ireland for 6 months. And I remember being at Newark Airport because I was taking a night flight so that I would get in a little later in the morning in the UK. And I remember, like, we were all ready to board the plane, and then they're like, oh, we have a flat tire. And I'm like, really? Like, nobody noticed that? Well, of course, I don't even want to get into, like, issues with Boeing and stuff right now with airplanes. It's a little scary. It's like, yeah, the doors might stay on. That's a little, I like to think that that's an isolated incident, but, one doesn't know. But here's the thing. I have, I don't know. And I remember waiting there because this was like me taking off on like doing something totally new. And that was an absolutely rejuvenating trip. By the time I got back from Ireland and back to this house, I just was a different person. It was a fantastic trip. I was living in houses with other people and stuff. My sister and her husband had taken care of this house while I was gone. And it was just, and if I had the money to do it right now, I'd be totally doing it right now. But it's, it's just really, you only had this flat, and everybody's just sitting around because it's already late at night. So we're not going to be taking off till almost close to midnight, And I remember I was sitting next to someone, he's like, right, I'm going over to the bar. He just gets up and walks away. And I was like, that's kind of the attitude. It's just like, you know what are you going to do? You could stand here and jump up and down and rage and be frustrated about it, or you can just accept the fact that this is what it is. And sometimes life circumstances can push us to that point. I can think of a point in my life back when, I want to say it was around it had to be 1999. It was April of 1999. I do remember this because I was finishing up my second graduate degree, and this was before my master's thesis. And I've told this story, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this story. But basically, I'd spent 9 months writing my thesis. My thesis director hadn't bothered to read any of it until that night, and then said, oh, you need to start all over again. I've been saying FFA a lot lately. Yeah, well, that's just it. Sometimes you just have to, it's crazy. But I remember, I was married. It was April 1st, so I literally was wondering if this was some kind of universal April Fool's joke, right? And April 5th was the deadline for scheduling an oral defense. And I had written my whole thesis. I'd spent 9 months writing my thesis. And she calls me up April 1st. She's like, I've just started reading it. Now, mind you, she claimed for all those months that she had been reading it and it was great and to keep going. No comments, which is a red flag, by the way, if you're in academia. And then she's like, yeah, I don't know. I think you need to start all over again. I was like, Darky, what? The deadline's in 4 days? Oh, is it? Like, she was just, they fired her eventually. She was a brilliant lecturer, but she was a bubblehead when it came to this kind of stuff. And could you just try to imagine you've spent months writing something and you're ready to defend it, and they're just like, oh, no, start all over. And she's like, oh, well, you're a good writer. You can rewrite something. But then she made me rewrite a totally different thesis that I did not want to write, and that's the one that I have, which is why I don't really share it with too many people, because I'm like, it's not, what I wanted to write. And it got very personal too, the one that she wanted me to write, because she's a psychoanalyst, so that's the way she wanted it to go. And but I remember at that time, literally, right after that, I got like 3 phone calls. One of my best friend's father had just died at 52, and she was hysterical, which as she should have been, right? Because I was very good friends with her father as well, and I was like, what? What do you mean he's just died? And then another friend called because her house just suddenly, somebody's upstairs, like it was a condo, leaked and completely destroyed her house. And I remember talking to my husband when I hung up the phone, because I was just beside myself because I had a thing, and he looked at me and he said, F you, you're disgusting. And he walked out of the door. I like, you know, because I was upset. And see, I was never allowed to get upset. So I was just, and I remember yelling after him, thanks a lot, asshole. It's like, you know, thanks for your support. But yeah, I mean, it was literally a moment where I'm trying to do all the things. I was working full time. I was the head of a department at the time. I was dealing with him. I was having long commutes. I was trying to get my master's done. And I literally just like lost my, you know, and I remember the next day going downstairs and sitting in my kitchen with my laptop and knowing I had to start all over again. And I just stared at it. It was like, I guess maybe it was closer to lunchtime, right? So I closed the laptop and I got in the car and I drove about half an hour south and got ice cream. I just was like, forget it. I can't, I was like, I gave up. I'm like, I mean, eventually I did write the thesis. I did defend it. It was a horrible defense because the questions they were asking were horrible. But nonetheless, I got through it. I got the master's. And said I will never recommend Drew graduate school as a point of that. Wow. Sounds like, he sounds like your antithesis. Oh, you mean my ex? Oh yeah, he was, interestingly, my ex was actually a really smart guy. He graduated summa cum laude in philosophy. He really knew how to write. Like, he knew how to write poetry. He knew how to write stories. Like, he was a smart guy. I mean, he wasn't, and a lot of people thought that the two of us were like the great couple from philosophy religion department, right? As soon as I got married to him, it was like he was an infant. It was like, I can't do anything. My life's too stressful. You have to support me. It's like, I mean, yeah. You gotta, sometimes people who just seem like, I've had this conversation with people. Sometimes you have men who are very, who just seem very creative and so forth. But a lot of times what they're looking for is they're looking for somebody to kind of be, somebody to be kind of like mommy to them. And I've heard this from other people too, where they've married men who they thought, they're more intelligent, they're more literary. This is also why people will say to me, don't you want to marry like a PhD or something? I was like, hell no. Happening with finding a clinical internship, the frustration is just like, okay, right, because you've just finished you've just finished your degree and you're trying to get this internship. Yeah, and I think the area that you're in too, given the kind of work you do, Joanne, that may be a little bit, I think that could be a bit challenging, just because it was the same kind of challenge I found when I was going to go for that kind of degree and when I was taking those kind of courses as well. I didn't go as far as you did with it, but that's just it. If you're running into that wall, there's probably another way to go. And and that was kind of the thing. You just reach a point where, and I literally just started to laugh. I was just like, okay, because you have gone too far with it. You have gone too far. Let me do our reading because we are at 7:04. But this is the thing. You go through all of this stuff, and sometimes, because we stubbornly kind of want to keep plowing ahead, and sometimes it's just like, you know what? We just have to accept what is, and take a step back, because then things will reach direct course on their own. The more that we push, that's that ambitious wands energy. The more that we push, sometimes what we need to do is flow into that other energy where we say, no, I just need to sit back and receive. I don't need to be, we're going to do 5 cards with this today. I'm going to do these instead of the Osho Zen today. It's kind of like, I mean, you want to be able to, this is interesting. Oh, and I got 2 outcomes here. That's interesting. Okay. Sometimes and for those of you who are still very energized and frustrated, I think the other piece of that I was going to mention was that there's an expression that I'm sure I've used it here before, because I don't know why I perpetually feel like I'm repeating myself, but the expression was, when fishermen can't go to sea, they repair nets. So a lot of times what I will see in people's readings is like more of the Virgo kind of energy, like get organized. Go back, like instead of trying to push ahead, clean up corners, okay? You're getting ready to move out of the house, make sure, you've emptied all the closets and that everything's clean, right? Make sure that you're moving in that direction, because sometimes that's what you need to do. If you have all of that energy and you feel like you're gonna go nuts if you don't use that energy, then that would be the way to use it. Go back and try to clean up old stuff. Okay, when you can't move forward, focus on what's in front of you right now. That would be the advice that I would give to people. Advice that, a lot of times though, we're avoiding the stuff that's around us because it's not stuff that we really want to do. So, but I think once that's clear, then you're emptying a space for the new stuff to come in, and that may be part of the issue as well. It's like, we can't have another one in because we have no room for it. So there's that too. So our reading today, this is meant to be a 5-card, what they call the Black Moon spread. Back to basics, yes, exactly. We have the Sun card, okay? So yeah, spotlight is on you. Okay, we're talking about fire energy, right? Sun means that spotlight is on you, and it's in an environment of the 5th house, which is Leo energy, okay? So this is like double, like, hey, the sun is shining on you and on something that you're doing, okay? So wherever you are right now, even if you are feeling stuck in what you're doing, this is saying that, no, there's a lot of energy available. And with Leo energy, there's also this sense, 5th house has to do with love affairs, it has to do with children, in addition to creativity. Sometimes it just has to do with leisure and recreation, things that make you happy. But Leo is one that, again, very, solar oriented. It's the sun card with Leo, which is ruled by the sun. And so it's very forward facing. So we're kind of in a period right now where like there's a spotlight being shined on some aspect of your life or something that you're trying to do. And it's in an environment, the fact that it's an environment of the 5th house suggests one of two things to me. So for one, it's saying definitely focus on what makes you happy. Okay, that's one piece of it. Focus on what makes you happy. But also, you want to, sometimes you don't want to go it alone either. Sometimes you can want to look to support. Now, of course, again, this is talking about love affairs, it's talking about children. And children, of course, can also be a creative product. It doesn't have to be a physical child, right? That's why I think they're kind of grouped in the same house. And it's the idea of things being ripe for you being recognized for what you creatively are offering to the world here. But we have it with this lunar eclipse energy. This is what you don't see, okay? And the lunar eclipse energy, this means that there's going to be changes that are not subtle, okay? So when I look at these together, I almost feel like, okay, yeah, the spotlight's on you in an environment where you're dealing with change. That is not subtle, okay? Things are shifting and changing, and you're trying to kind of, trying to deal with these sudden and unexpected changes. And the course of action that you need to take is Neptune. This has come up for a lot of people too. This is the card, and you see the word here is sacrifice. All right? So in other words, the spotlight's on you. You're getting a green light to move towards what you want to do, but this does also mean that you have to give something else up. Okay? That's what's coming up here. That's the energy here. You have to give something else up. But our outcomes here, 2 of them popped out here. Well, one is part of fortune, which is great, because this, again, part of fortune has to do with where you find your joy. Where's this energy of what makes you happy? So part of fortune is important right now, and they call it the card of increase. So the good news is, with all of this sun energy, in spite of how things may feel, you are moving into a space where things are going to be better, where you are going to have more of what you need. You're not going to be blocked. The way is going to be open. But we have this 4th house card with it, roots. So this has to do with family. It has to do with ancestry. It has to do with the past. It has to do with the home. And generally the meaning of this card is the answer to your question is rooted in the past. So it's really funny. It kind of pulls together everything I literally just said, which is, when you're kind of going through these changes, when you are in that wand's energy and the spotlight's on and you feel like you can move towards your goals, but then all this unexpected stuff comes in that makes you either doubt what the direction that you're going in or makes you feel somehow like you can't do it. basically it's saying that energy is coming in because they're in some way you're trying to move into the new way while carrying something from the old way that isn't proper to the new way. And again, for me to say specifically what that is, it'll be different for everybody. We all have things that we hang on to that are not part of where we're going right now. And somehow whatever it is that you're hanging on to is rooted in the past. So I don't know whether this has something to do with and it doesn't have to do necessarily with a person in your family. It could have to do with it could have to do with just for example, if there's a tradition in the family that we always do things this way or we always do things that way. It could be something like that. There could be a family pattern that all of us let's face the reality. All families have toxic patterns. All of them. Even the best families where everybody loves each other and supports each other, there's a toxic pattern somewhere. And we may unconsciously, because I feel like a lot of that's in the DNA, we may unconsciously absorb some of that. And so the question is, and also just maybe dealing with the past in general. This may not just have to do with family. It can have to do with our past. The dream I had last night, the dreams I've been having have been crazy. The one I had last night was focusing on events, not only events from that early 90s, but also events around 2008, 2009 that had happened. It's just like boom, boom, chakalaka for me, hit it right for me. Well, that's just it. There's something there that we need to let go of. And the thing is, sometimes it's something that we don't necessarily even like, or that, we may be like, ugh, I want to get rid of this from my life. But somehow that's not as easy to do because there's some part of us that feels that we need it. It's kind of like when you go to clean things out and there's this thing in your closet, you're like, I haven't done anything with this in years, but you somehow think that at some point, maybe there's something you can do with it. This is saying, no, throw it out. You're done. I worked years in collection development as a librarian, and people can get very, very attached to books. I used to get phone calls all the time to my department, like, I'm a lawyer and I'm retiring and I have this beautiful set of NJSAs, and I'm like, yeah, you're the fifth person to offer any this week. We've already got a set and we don't have a legal program, thanks anyway. It's just like, plus I had a sign up in my office. It was one of those fake pulp book covers, and it was heating your home with used books. It was just because we got so much rubbish that from people that saying like, look, we gave books to the library. I'm like, yeah, we can't use these, and they're just taking up space. And I know that's like a sacrilege to people who love books, but trust me, there are some books that should be confined to the rubbish heap. But it's, but yeah, and you get to be that way after a while. You kind of have to, it's like my mother used to say, we always say, like, if you worked, I can't remember if she had worked in a candy shop or if it was somebody that she knew, like it was her sister or somebody had worked in a candy shop. This is, of course, back in like the 40s and 50s. And she said, and of course, when you're there, they always tell you can eat as much candy as you want as an employee. And generally the first day you like eat a whole lot of candy, and then after that you like never want to look at a piece of candy again, because now you've had your fill. And that's why they have that policy, because they know you're going to get sick of it within a day or two, and that's going to be the end of it. So what the question is, what is it that we think we need? What are we hanging on to that we don't need? Where can we clear space? And that may also demand that we take a step back and not rush into things. Or if we're still restless and energized, because if you have that manifesting generator energy, you're like, I can't sit still. Then you need to, then the idea would be, okay, just turn around and focus on what's in your immediate environment that's not done. So I think that's really what the message is of today. This is fun. I enjoy it. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of people joining today. And I also saw, that there's been some other people who have joined, and that I kind of did, as I was talking, I didn't get to say hello. So hello to everybody who's joined since then. This was great. I'm always happy when people can join me with this. When I have to record them and like nobody's on, it's like, I can still record it and put it up, but it's more fun when there's people on. So, you are welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining me today. I will be here tomorrow morning if I don't wake up late. I'll be here tomorrow morning, and so I'll be back for another morning coffee, and we'll see what my guides tell me to talk about tomorrow. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your week. Oh, you're welcome, and good luck with like I said, riding out the rest of this energy over the next couple weeks, and we'll probably talk more about that during the week. Take care, and we'll see you later.